Forgiveness. A word so simple, yet so difficult to live. Every one of us has been hurt in life. Some wounds are small, an insult, a betrayal of trust, a broken promise. Others are deep, abuse, abandonment, injustice, or even violence. When hurt enters our lives, the natural instinct is anger, resentment, or revenge. We want the wrongdoer to suffer the way we suffered. We want balance. And yet, history, spirituality, and human experience all whisper a deeper truth. That the greatest strength lies not in holding on, but in letting go. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is the highest expression of courage. But what does forgiveness really mean? How does it transform a life? Why is it so hard, and yet so necessary? And why have the greatest souls of history, from Jesus to Buddha, from Gandhi to Mandela, all pointed to forgiveness as the key to peace? This is the story of forgiveness. A story that stretches from ancient scriptures to modern psychology, from family conflicts to global tragedies, from inner battles to acts that changed nations. It is a story about the hidden power that can heal hearts, mend societies, and bring freedom to the human spirit. Part 1. Understanding forgiveness. At its heart, forgiveness is a choice. It is the decision to release bitterness and anger towards someone who has caused harm, even when that harm feels unforgivable. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It does not mean pretending the harm never happened. Nor does it mean excusing the wrongdoing or allowing injustice to continue. Forgiveness is not about the offender. It is about freeing the one who was hurt. Imagine holding a burning coal in your hand, waiting to throw it at the person who wronged you. Who gets burned first? You. That's what resentment does. It burns the one who clings to it. Forgiveness is dropping the coal. Modern psychologists define forgiveness as a deliberate, voluntary process. It involves acknowledging pain, letting go of the need for vengeance, and replacing bitterness with a sense of peace. In short, forgiveness is freedom. Part 2. Forgiveness in ancient traditions. Long before psychologists studied forgiveness, ancient traditions honored it as sacred. Christianity places forgiveness at its center. When Jesus was crucified, he prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Those words have echoed for 2,000 years, reminding Christians that forgiveness is limitless. Buddhism teaches that clinging to hatred is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The Dhammapada says, "Hatred is never ended by hatred, but by love alone." This is an eternal truth. Forgiveness is a step toward enlightenment. Islam elevates forgiveness as one of Allah's attributes. The Quran states, "Whoever pardons and makes reconciliation, his reward is with Allah." Justice may be sought, but forgiveness is considered nobler. Hinduism regards forgiveness as divine strength. The Mahabharata says, "Forgiveness is virtue, forgiveness is sacrifice, forgiveness is the Vedas, forgiveness is the sacredness of holy offerings." Judaism holds Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, where forgiveness is asked and granted as a sacred duty. Across cultures, forgiveness has been seen not as weakness, but as strength. Not as an option, but as a spiritual necessity. Part 3. The Science of Forgiveness. Modern science confirms what the ancients taught. When we hold grudges, the body reacts as if under constant stress. Cortisol levels rise. Blood pressure increases. The immune system weakens. Chronic anger has been linked to heart disease and even premature death. On the other hand, studies show that forgiveness improves mental health, reduces anxiety, lowers stress, and strengthens the immune system. People who practice forgiveness report higher levels of happiness, life satisfaction, and even longer life expectancy. Psychologist Everett Worthington created the REACH method of forgiveness. R. Recall the hurt. E. Empathize with the offender. A. Altruistic gift of forgiveness. C. Commit to forgive. H. Hold on to forgiveness. This model has helped thousands break free from resentment. Science now proves forgiveness doesn't just heal the soul, it heals the body. Part 4. Personal stories of forgiveness. Stories reveal the true power of forgiveness more than theories. Nelson Mandela. After 27 years in prison, he emerged without hatred. He invited his former jailers to his inauguration. He said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies." His forgiveness helped unite South Africa and prevent civil war. The Amish school shooting. In 2006, a gunman killed 5 young girls in an Amish schoolhouse in Pennsylvania. The world expected rage. Instead, the Amish community forgave the killer, even visiting his family to offer comfort. Their act shocked the world and embodied forgiveness in its purest form. Eva Kor, Holocaust survivor. Eva lost her family in Auschwitz, where she was subjected to medical experiments. Decades later, she publicly forgave the Nazis. She explained, "Forgiveness is not for them. It is for me. I refuse to be a prisoner of Auschwitz anymore." These stories show that forgiveness is not naive. It is radical. It transforms victims into victors. Part 5. Forgiveness in families. The deepest wounds often come from family. Parents hurt children. Children betray parents. Spouses wound each other with words and actions. A son abandoned by his father grows up with anger. A daughter betrayed by her mother's harshness carries resentment. A husband cannot forgive his wife's betrayal. A mother grieves over her child's rebellion. These wounds are universal. But forgiveness is the only path to healing. When a father finally apologizes after decades, and a son forgives, generations of pain are healed. When a couple chooses forgiveness after betrayal, they rebuild stronger. When siblings reconcile after years of silence, a family becomes whole again. Forgiveness in families creates ripples of healing that extend for generations. Part 6. Forgiveness in communities and nations. Forgiveness has the power to heal not just individuals but entire nations. Rwanda. After the 1994 genocide, survivors and perpetrators met in community courts called Gacaca. Many survivors chose forgiveness, allowing communities to heal rather than drown in endless cycles of revenge. Today, Rwanda is one of Africa's most stable nations. Germany after World War II. Through acknowledgement, apology, and reconciliation, Germany sought forgiveness from the Jewish people. This act helped reshape modern Germany's moral identity. Truth and Reconciliation Commissions. In countries torn by war and dictatorship, forgiveness has been the foundation for peace. Confronting atrocities and granting forgiveness allowed societies to move forward. Forgiveness is not passive. It is a political force capable of rebuilding nations. Part 7. The struggle of forgiveness. But let us be honest, forgiveness is hard. How do you forgive a murderer? How do you forgive betrayal by someone you trusted most? How do you forgive when the offender shows no remorse? Forgiveness does not mean instant peace. It is often a long journey. Some wounds may take years, even decades, to forgive. And forgiveness does not always mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone without ever letting them back into your life. Forgiveness also does not cancel justice. Seeking justice and granting forgiveness are not opposites. One addresses accountability, the other addresses the heart. Part 8. Forgiving yourself. Perhaps the hardest forgiveness is self-forgiveness. Many people carry guilt like a heavy stone, over mistakes, regrets, or failures. A parent blames themselves for not being there for their child. A person lives with regret for a relationship broken long ago. Without self-forgiveness, there is no peace. We remain prisoners of our own guilt. Self-forgiveness requires honesty. Admit the mistake, make amends if possible, and then release the burden. You are more than your worst action. You are worthy of peace. Part 9. Forgiveness and love. Ultimately, forgiveness flows from love, the recognition of our shared humanity. To forgive is to say, you are more than what you did. I am more than my pain. We are bigger than this wound. Love empowers forgiveness, and forgiveness deepens love. Together, they create compassion. Part 10. Practical steps to forgive. Forgiveness may sound abstract, but it can be practiced. Acknowledge the hurt. Denial does not heal. Name the pain. Decide to forgive. It is a choice, not a feeling. Understand the offender. Empathy helps loosen resentment. Release revenge. This is the hardest step, but the most liberating. Repeat, forgiveness is not one time. It may need to be renewed many times. Part 11. Forgiveness is freedom. Forgiveness is not about weakness. It is strength. It is not about erasing memory. It is about transforming memory. It is not about excusing injustice. It is about choosing peace over hatred. As one saying goes, to forgive is to set a prisoner free, and discover the prisoner was you. Part 12. Forgiveness in literature and art. Artists, poets, and writers have long grappled with forgiveness. Literature often portrays forgiveness as the turning point in human redemption. In Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, the character of Jean Valjean is transformed by an act of forgiveness. When caught stealing silver from a kind bishop, Valjean expects punishment. Instead, the bishop forgives him, even giving him more silver. This single act reshapes Valjean's life, turning a hardened criminal into a man of compassion. Forgiveness in this story is not abstract, it is the spark of transformation. In Shakespeare's The Tempest, Prospero chooses forgiveness over revenge. Though betrayed and exiled, he restores peace through forgiveness. Shakespeare suggests that mercy and forgiveness are stronger than vengeance. Art, too, reflects this theme. Paintings of the prodigal son returning, embraced by his father, symbolize the beauty of forgiveness. Music, from gospel hymns to modern songs, often speaks of the release that comes with forgiving. Forgiveness, then, is not only a spiritual act but also a central theme of human creativity. Part 13. The psychology of holding grudges. Why is forgiveness so hard? Because our brains are wired for survival. When hurt, the mind replays the wound to prevent it from happening again. This survival instinct, while useful, keeps us trapped in cycles of anger. Neuroscientists have discovered that resentment activates the same brain regions as physical pain. In other words, the body doesn't distinguish much between being hit and being deeply betrayed. That is why emotional wounds linger. But when we forgive, new neural pathways are formed. Compassion activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine and oxytocin, the chemicals of bonding and peace. Forgiveness, therefore, rewires the brain. It is not just moral, it is neurological freedom. Part 14. Stories of everyday forgiveness. While we admire great figures like Mandela, forgiveness also happens quietly in ordinary lives. A woman whose friend spread rumors about her chooses to forgive and rebuilds the friendship stronger. A man whose brother cheated him in business chooses to let go, realizing peace is worth more than money. A child forgives a mother who was harsh during difficult years, understanding the struggles she carried. These small acts of forgiveness never make headlines, but they heal the hidden wounds of everyday life. They show that forgiveness is not only for saints, it is for all of us. Part 15. Forgiveness in marriages and relationships. Perhaps nowhere is forgiveness tested more than in intimate relationships. Marriage, while built on love, often requires forgiveness again and again. Couples hurt each other through harsh words, neglect, betrayal, or simply human imperfection. Without forgiveness, relationships collapse under the weight of resentment. But with forgiveness, they grow deeper. Relationship experts note that the strongest marriages are not those without conflict, but those where forgiveness is practiced daily. To say, "I forgive you," is to say, "Our love is bigger than this mistake." Forgiveness keeps love alive. Part 16. The economic and social value of forgiveness. Beyond personal healing, forgiveness has a surprising social value. Societies that foster forgiveness avoid endless cycles of revenge that destroy economies and communities. Consider cultures trapped in blood feuds, where revenge killings pass from generation to generation. Such societies remain unstable. But where forgiveness interrupts the cycle, peace allows growth and prosperity. Even in workplaces, forgiveness matters. Studies show that teams where forgiveness is practiced, where mistakes are acknowledged but not endlessly punished, perform better, innovate more, and have lower stress. Forgiveness creates cultures of trust. In this way, forgiveness is not only a private virtue but also a public asset. Part 17. The spiritual dimension of forgiveness. Why does forgiveness feel so profound? Because it connects us with something larger than ourselves. When we forgive, we step into a higher state of consciousness. We act not from ego but from spirit. Forgiveness dissolves the illusion of separateness and reminds us that we are all human, all fallible, all in need of grace. Mystics across traditions describe forgiveness as liberation. The Sufi poet Rumi wrote, "Forgive the past, for it is gone. Forgive the future, for it is not yet here. Forgive yourself, for you are doing the best you can." To forgive is to align with love, the deepest force in the universe. Part 18. The cost of unforgiveness. To appreciate forgiveness, we must understand the cost of unforgiveness. Unforgiveness hardens the heart. It poisons relationships. It spreads bitterness through families and generations. A grudge carried by a parent often becomes a burden carried by children. Nations consumed by vengeance rarely find peace. On a personal level, unforgiveness keeps wounds open. We may think we are punishing the offender by holding on, but in truth, we are punishing ourselves. As one proverb says, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You're the one who gets burned. Part 19. Forgiveness and justice. Many ask, if I forgive, does that mean justice is denied? The answer is no. Justice and forgiveness are not enemies. Forgiveness releases the personal burden of hatred, while justice ensures accountability. For example, a victim may forgive an offender, but the law may still hold that person accountable. Forgiveness says, I will not let this destroy my heart. Justice says, there must be accountability to protect society. Both can coexist. In fact, forgiveness can make justice more humane, preventing it from turning into revenge. Part 20. Forgiveness as leadership. The greatest leaders have always practiced forgiveness. Gandhi forgave his attackers and preached nonviolence. His forgiveness disarmed an empire. Martin Luther King Jr. urged forgiveness toward oppressors, saying, "We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love." Even Abraham Lincoln, during America's Civil War, spoke of reconciliation. At his second inaugural address, he called for healing, with malice toward none, with charity for all. True leadership requires forgiveness, for only forgiveness unites divided people. Part 21. The Long Journey of Forgiveness. Forgiveness is rarely instant. It is a process, a journey that moves through stages: acknowledgement of pain, naming the wound; anger and grief, allowing emotions to surface; understanding, seeing the humanity of the offender; decision, choosing to forgive; release, letting go of resentment; healing, experiencing inner peace. Some may never fully reach the final stage, but every step toward forgiveness lightens the burden. Part 22. When forgiveness seems impossible. There are wounds so deep that forgiveness feels impossible: abuse, betrayal, genocide. And indeed, forgiveness cannot be forced. It must be chosen freely, and sometimes the journey takes a lifetime. But even here, forgiveness is not about excusing evil. It is about refusing to let evil have the last word in your life. Eva Kor, the Holocaust survivor, explained, "Forgiveness is not about the perpetrator. Forgiveness is about you. It is about healing your soul." Even when impossible, forgiveness is always an open door. Part 23. Forgiveness as legacy. What we forgive, or fail to forgive, becomes part of our legacy. Parents who model forgiveness raise children who know compassion. Leaders who practice forgiveness leave nations more united. Individuals who forgive inspire others to do the same. One act of forgiveness can echo for generations. Part 24. The Future of Forgiveness. As the world becomes more divided, by politics, by race, by religion, forgiveness will be more essential than ever. Technology connects us instantly but also magnifies conflict. The future of humanity will depend not only on intelligence but also on forgiveness. In schools, teaching forgiveness alongside math and science could create more compassionate societies. In diplomacy, forgiveness could prevent wars. In personal lives, forgiveness will continue to be the bridge to peace. The future belongs to the forgiving. In closing, the everlasting power of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not a weakness, nor is it the act of excusing harmful behavior. It is a conscious decision to release the burden of anger, resentment, and pain so that life can move forward with freedom and peace. Throughout history, across faiths, philosophies, and personal journeys, forgiveness has revealed itself to be one of the most powerful forces available to humanity. It allows nations to reconcile after centuries of conflict, families to heal after betrayal, and individuals to reclaim their inner peace from the grip of bitterness. When we hold on to grudges, we chain ourselves to the very events and people that have hurt us. That pain can shape our thoughts, our actions, and even our futures. But when we choose to forgive, we break those chains. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, nor does it mean erasing the past. Rather, it means choosing not to be controlled by it anymore. It transforms wounds into lessons and suffering into strength. Modern psychology confirms what spiritual traditions have taught for centuries: forgiveness is deeply healing. It lowers stress, improves physical health, strengthens relationships, and increases empathy. More importantly, it creates space for growth and renewal. People who forgive often find themselves lighter, more open, and more capable of building meaningful connections. At its core, forgiveness is an act of courage. It requires us to face the hurt honestly, acknowledge the depth of our pain, and yet rise above it. It asks us to look at those who wronged us with compassion, not because they deserve it, but because we deserve peace. In forgiving, we step into our own strength. As we look at the stories of individuals, leaders, and communities that embraced forgiveness, we realize that it is not a rare gift given only to saints. It is a choice within everyone's reach. It is a power that belongs to us all, waiting to be awakened. The power of forgiveness lies in its ability to transform not only the forgiven but also the forgiver. It heals hearts, rebuilds trust, and redefines humanity. Ultimately, forgiveness reminds us that love is stronger than hate, hope is stronger than despair, and peace is stronger than conflict.